It's Miss Wood's Spazzy Grammar. Let's look at commas, rules for just part one. The first set of rules are coordinate adjectives and items in a series. Use commas to separate three or more words, phrases, or clauses in a series. It is still acceptable to use the word and only between three words or clauses in a series. If two adjectives describe a noun equally and the adjectives do not describe each other, place a comma between them. No comma is needed if the first adjective describes the second. Let's look at some example sentences of each of these rules. Number 1, I like apples, comma, oranges, comma, and pears. This sentence uses items in a series and it uses commas after each item except the last. Also notice in the sentence directly after that one, it shows that it is still okay to use and between three items in a series. I like apples and oranges and pears. Number 2, the short comma, blonde woman saved the day. Short and blonde are two adjectives that describe the woman, so we put a comma after short because short does not describe blonde. Number 3, she wore faded blue jeans to the ceremony. In this sentence we have two adjectives before jeans, faded and blue. However, we don't use a comma because faded describes blue. Number 4, I went for a walk, comma, cleaned the house, and took a nap. This is an example sentence that shows clauses in a series, and it also shows us that now it is also okay to leave off your last comma before the and. Commas with something called non-essential elements. Sometimes we use commas in certain types of phrases or clauses in sentences. There are 4 types of phrases or clauses that we look for in sentences to check to see if they are needed or essential to the sentence. That means that we can read the sentence without the phrase, and the sentence still has pretty much the same meaning. When this happens, the phrase is non-essential or non-needed, and we can leave it out. Here are the 4 types of phrases that we are going to look at. Participles or ing or ed phrases. Infinitives, phrases starting with to. Adjective clauses, phrases starting with who and which. Appositive phrases, phrases that rename nouns or explain. Let's have a look at 4 example sentences. Number 1, the player, comma, wearing the number 20, comma, is the one to watch. Wearing the number 20 is a participle phrase that describes the player. Because it occurs in the middle of the sentence, we use a comma before and after the phrase. Notice that if we leave this phrase out, we still understand which player is the one to watch. This is called a non-essential phrase, and therefore we use commas. Number 2, number 20 is worth watching, comma, to be sure. To be sure is an infinitive phrase. And in this sentence, we can actually leave that phrase off and we still understand that number 20 is worth watching. Therefore, we use a comma before the phrase. The phrase comes at the end of the sentence, so we do not need another comma. Number 3, Zora Neale Hurston, comma, who was born around 1901, comma, was important in the Harlem Renaissance. This is an adjective clause that starts with the word who. We use a comma before and after the phrase because we can leave it out of the sentence and still understand who Zora Neale Hurston is and how she's important in the Harlem Renaissance. Number 4, John Steinbeck, comma, a writer I admire, comma, wrote The Grapes of Wrath. Again, this is an appositive phrase that explains something or renames the noun John Steinbeck. We use a comma before and after the phrase because it occurs in the middle of the sentence. Interjections, parenthetical expressions, and conjunctive adverbs. Place commas before and after these parts of speech when they're in the middle of the sentence. If they're at the beginning or end, we're just going to add 1 comma. Interjections are words that show excitement or emotion like hey, wow, ouch, yes, and no. Parenthetical expressions. These are phrases like on the contrary, on the other hand, in fact, by the way, to be exact, after all. Sometimes we refer to these expressions as transitions. Conjunctive adverbs. These are words we commonly use like however, moreover, consequently, therefore. We also call these words transitions. Let's look at the example sentences to understand how to use the commas. Number 1, this school, comma, by the way, comma, was built during the Great Depression. Notice we use a comma before and after this parenthetical expression, by the way. 2. Ouch, comma, you stepped on my toe. In this sentence, we have an interjection at the beginning, and we need to follow it with a comma so we have an effective pause. Number 3. He was my friend, comma, however, comma, now I don't trust him. We need a comma before and after the conjunctive adverb, however, because it occurs in the middle of the sentence. Number 4. Therefore, comma, I do not talk to him anymore. When a conjunctive adverb occurs at the beginning of the sentence, just add one comma after that word. Therefore, comma. 5. To be exact, comma, I did count all the eggs before they hatched. This parenthetical expression comes at the beginning of the sentence, so we use one comma after to be exact. Compound sentences. We place a comma between two complete sentences and before the coordinating conjunction. We like to use a little acronym to remember our coordinating conjunctions. That acronym is FANBOYS. Each letter in that word, fanboy, stands for one of the coordinating conjunctions. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Compound sentences consist of two complete sentences. They have two subjects. They have two verbs. When this occurs, we put a comma before the coordinating conjunction. Look at the examples. I was absent, comma, so I missed the test. I wanted to eat pancakes, comma, but we had no eggs. In the first sentence, notice you have two subjects, two I's. That lets us know we have a compound sentence. And number 2, we also have two subjects, I and we, and we have two complete thoughts. That means we have a compound sentence and must use a comma. Go on to part 2 for more comma rules.